Negus.
Negus. What is the language of origin?
Ethiopian to Amharic.
What is the definition?
A king. It's used as a title of the sovereign of Ethiopia. Negus.
Negus. Could you use it in a sentence?
The Negus ruled Ethiopia until the coup of 1974.
Negus. Could you repeat the definition?
A king. It's used as a title of the sovereign of Ethiopia. Negus.
Negus.
Andrew, would you say the word loudly for the judges?
Negus.
One more time.
Negus.
Negus.
Negus. Negus. Negus. Negus.
Absolutely stunned, but he'll take it. Again, when in doubt, sound it out. Spell it just like it sounds, and it pays off every once in a while.
When in doubt, sound it out. I'll have to remember that.
When in doubt, sound it out. Yes, I guess that's all it takes. When in doubt, sound it out. There you go. That's my background. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Lawgic. I hope you all had a phenomenal weekend. Exceptional, splendid, wonderful, memorable. But overall, even if it wasn't any of those high-level weekends, the kind of weekends where you go 3-0 in fantasy football kind of weekend. Even if it wasn't one of those, I still hope it was at least good. It was at least good. Tonight, what do I have for you tonight? I actually made a lower threshold than normal. Normally, if I set a goal for the night. I set the goal a little lower than normal for a couple of reasons. But tonight's goal is only 10 yellow super chats. I usually make it 15. 10 yellow or higher super chats of $10 or more, in which case I'm going to do a detailed dissection of the Philly Karen story, which is probably going to take me a little while, which is why I sort of tacked it on as far as being a goal. But it's only 10, right? That's not that we should be able to do that. The reason that the goal is only 10 tonight is a couple of reasons. First and foremost, I think it's an interesting story to cover. Like, I think it's like a little bit of humanities as far as understanding all the different parties here and the ripple effect and things of that nature. The other reason is I'm not on Rumble right now. I feel very badly that I'm not on Rumble. That is not by my choice. In order to set up a Rumble stream, those of you who are wondering, why is Joe not on Rumble? Why is he not doing that? We know, I love the ghetto. It's because when I set up a stream, in order to get a stream going on Rumble, if you're not a podcast and you've never streamed before on that particular platform, what makes it different from YouTube and virtually any other platform is that in order to set a stream up, for one reason or another, their system requires you to upload a video that will run at the start of the live stream. It can be like a 5-second, 10-second video. So those of you who watch on Rumble, maybe you're watching now on YouTube, maybe you're watching on Rumble after the fact. I don't know that I'm going to be able to get this part of it onto Rumble. You'll see every time you watch me on Rumble, the same video, which is what I'll upload. Normally, it takes like a second and a half, 2 seconds for that video to upload. For one reason or another, this is what it looks like right now. I'm going to try uploading it. It's still stuck on 22%. I've tried refreshing. I'll try refreshing now. It's nothing to lose. Upload, come up here, click my video, click on this, open, nothing. It's like stupid. I don't understand what's happening. I don't understand why it's doing that. I assume it's a Rumble issue, but those of you who normally watch me on Rumble are frustrated that I'm not there right now. I apologize. I'm trying. I'm trying. So this is just YouTube and locals. Why? Wait, did I set up a locals chat? I should have set up a locals chat. The locals chat definitely. Locals chat is not open yet, but it's about to be open. Now it's open. Okay. Locals is open now. I just opened it. I apologize for that. I was very frustrated. Look at this thing. 11%. This is not the way it's supposed to be. Normally it's like zip. But by the time I hit, I type in the title, it's long done. And now it goes back to 1%. What is happening? What is happening? So I don't know what it is. But I apologize, those of you, and that was the delay. Like I would have had this stream definitely started, I think, by 10:30 if I didn't have the Rumble issue. So that ended up causing delay. But anyway, we do have a lot to cover tonight. 3 main stories that I plan on covering, whether or not we get to our goal. Whether or not we get to our goal, the 3 stories I am covering for tonight, God willing, will include SCOTUS decision. Unleashing ICE, unleash the hounds, going after ICE. It's telling ICE, go get them. Decision that was brought down, 6-3 decision along that's divided along lines that you could predict. I don't need to give you the names. You know which 6, you know which 3. Agreed with Trump's immigration policies, particularly we're talking about in California, and saying that they can go out there and that the Ninth Circuit is not empowered. It's not empowered to basically start telling him what he can use here, that he can't round people up. Say, let the rounding begin. They assess that 2 million people, 2 million illegal aliens are in the affected area. 2 million. So go get them. Go round them up. Let's get it going. And we're gonna break down that decision. Also, I want to break down for you the E. Jean Carroll decision. That one I'm not going to go through the decision itself. The first one I do want to go through the decision. Certainly the majority, probably not the dissent. Probably not. But I am going to go through the majority decision with you. Also, I'm going to be going through, but I do want to cover the E. Jean Carroll decision, how ridiculous it is. And finally, I plan on covering tonight story of the only Ukrainian on the planet that the left seems to not care about. The only one, the only refugee on the planet they don't care about happens to be a white woman who was butchered by a deranged 4-time arrested individual who just kept getting let loose, and the story was kept quiet. And Trump finally called national attention to it, which is why we all learned of this awful, awful tragedy. And we'll discuss why that is, and frankly, what can be done to remedy this type of situation. And not sure we're going to come up with answers on that, but definitely want to break that down for you. And then if we reach our goal, which it looks like we're off to a great start on reaching that goal, I definitely want to break down the story with the Phillies Karen. No chat locals that I can give shekels to. There is now, JH. There's chat on. There's definitely a chat there. For Philly Karen, there you go. And Brian Oldenkamp pushing us toward the goal. Brian is awesome. Thank you, brother. Adrian, when in doubt, sound it out. Yeah, right. That's how that is. I'm from DC. I was 16 when I finally realized why there's no R in Washington. Yeah, that's a weird thing. I noticed you're my age demographic, Adrian. You and others in my age demographic may remember a classic comedy called Get Smart. Get Smart, which featured Don Adams as the title, the titular character, Maxwell Smart. And if you ever watch that show, every time I'm watching it, I'm struck about how he refers to it as Washington, Washington, Washington. And it's just like, why is he calling it Washington? It's Washington. It's Washington. Washington. I don't know. Yeah. So I guess maybe he's from that area, Washington. But yeah, 14 previous arrests. It's horrible, horrible. But we are here for 14 months. So 14, yeah, unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. We're going to break down that monster. And we even have video, which shows the senselessness of this stabbing. I went through the video to ensure it wasn't something that was going to get me bounced out of YouTube, and it won't. So, but we'll see the setup for the entire thing unfolding in the video that I plan on sharing with you. Horrible, really, really horrible crime. But first and foremost, let's break down let's talk about some good news that happened in the world today. Some good news indeed. And that is specifically in this case right here, this Supreme Court decision known as Kristi Noem, Secretary, Department of Homeland Security, v. Pedro Vasquez Perdomo on application for stay. All right. So what's happening here is there was a stay that was put into effect, which was stopping ICE from rounding folks up in Southern California. The application for stay presented to Justice Kagan by her, referred to the court, is granted. This is one of the nice things that I'm for all I bash the left for, when they do something that's appropriate, I have to appreciate that they're at least following procedure to this bare minimum threshold that Justice Kagan, who is one of the three lefty justices, she's probably the least lefty out of the three. Meaning, if I had to rank like crazy, if my personal opinion, if I had to rank like crazy left to most based right, if I had to rank them, those judges, they're very easy to rank. Very, very easy to rank. This is not a difficult thing at all. At all. On the far left, you have Ketanji Brown Jackson. And then sitting a half step to the right of her, way out on the left, like Ketanji Brown Jackson she's out in past Hawaii. If you're looking at a map of the United States, she's like way past Hawaii. She's just like swimming around there, floundering around that's how far left, crazy left, okay, is Ketanji Brown Jackson. Sotomayor is in Hawaii, I would say, around there. Kagan is like in LA. She's just sitting there comfortably, very comfortably on the left, but not like drowning lefty. She's very comfortably on the left. Very, very comfortably on the left. Then I would say the next one, as we're moving toward the right, the next one would probably be, I would say, Comey Barrett. Amy Coney Barrett she's probably somewhere in like Reno, Nevada. That's what I'm feeling. Reno, Nevada, around there. And then you would have, then I would say like somewhere like around Yellowstone is Roberts. And then when you get to St. Louis, that's where you're going to find Kavanaugh. I'm moving from left to right. If you're looking at a map with me, you get to St. Louis, you're basically at Kavanaugh there. That's, and then when you get to probably somewhere on the border between Ohio and Pennsylvania, that's where you'll find Gorsuch. I think that's where Gorsuch will be, somewhere between Pennsylvania and Ohio. And then when you get to, I should really do it from the center of the map, because otherwise I'm going to confuse people when I'm starting to get to the next ones. Yeah, we'll do it from further south. We'll do it further south. Okay, so those of you from the south, because otherwise it's not gonna work well. Anyway, yeah. So then basically, I would say when you get to Mississippi, wait, which one's on the right? Which one's on the left? I always forget. It's Alabama. Alabama. When you get to Alabama, the border of Florida, that's basically where you're going to find Alito, and then like basically, yeah, and then basically along the east coast of Florida, you'll find a big camp called Justice Thomas. That's your right to left on the map. All right. Well, anyway, so Justice Kagan, what I'm crediting her for is a case comes in before her on emergency application. She has the authority to reject it outright if she were so inclined, but she didn't. She referred it to the court. She could have rejected an emergency application outright. I'm sure that it's something that they've all agreed amongst themselves that no matter which district it comes into, if an injunction affecting the United States comes in, that they're going to refer it. But still, she's at least following that protocol, so I can appreciate that she's taking that step, and that's why I'm calling her out, even though she's sitting there in Southern California. So Justice Kagan, and by referred to the court, is granted the July 11, 2025 order entered by the U.S. District Court for the Central District of California, case number 225-CV5605, is stayed pending the disposition of the appeal of the United States Court of Appeals to the Ninth Circuit and disposition of petition for writ of certiorari if such a writ is timely sought. So what this means is there is an appeal decision that's currently pending in the Ninth Circuit. So in theory, the Ninth Circuit could still rule against what the Supreme Court said. They have that right, because this is not a decision that's dispositive. This is not a decision that actually makes the stay go away. What the Supreme Court is doing here is they're saying this temporary stay, while this stay is being mulled over, go out there and round people up, and that they think that the government has the right to do that. Should certiorari be denied, the stay shall terminate automatically. That's not going to happen. In the event certiorari is granted, the stay shall terminate upon the sending down the judgment of the court. So let's assume what they're saying here is, let's assume you have 3 stages, right? So you have a district court judge, and they issue this injunction saying ICE can't go in there doing what they're doing, rounding folks up the way they're doing it. All sorts of problems. We're putting a restraining order on ICE. Can't round people up. That's an injunctive relief that they gave at the start of the case. Now, that a case that was started by this Pedro Vasquez Perdomo against the United States of America. So he files this case saying they're violating my civil liberties, and I want to get an injunction. District court judge signs off on the injunction. When this injunction comes up, and they file an appeal to the Ninth Circuit, and the government and ICE, basically, Kristi Noem, come up and they basically say, we want to appeal to the Ninth Circuit. Meanwhile, they don't want this injunction to be in effect while this whole decision is being made about the validity of ICE's conduct in California. So they actually ended up going up to Supreme Court, and they say, can you put a stay on that injunction so that until such time as the validity of this injunction is decided, we have the right to continue doing what we're doing. And that's what's granted here. But the Supreme Court is properly recognizing that, in theory, if the Ninth Circuit were to agree with the petitioner at the stay is warranted, in that case, the government is likely going to come up to us here in the Supreme Court. So while that whole thing's happening, until such time as we deny cert, which, let's say the government asks us to come in here and we say no, well, in that case, this stay on her injunction goes away. The Supreme Court is highly unlikely to do that, given what their stance is on this case. If, in fact, the Ninth Circuit agrees with Trump, then there's no problem. But yeah, so there you go. So they're covering that. In the event certiorari is granted, the stay shall terminate upon the sending down the judgment of this court, meaning if the Ninth Circuit rules against Trump and says, we think that this is a valid injunction, then Trump's going to come and ask for us for a writ of certiorari. If we give that writ of certiorari and we say that's okay, in that case, this until we make a decision on this, a final decision on this injunction, the injunction is not in effect, and Trump can continue to round up illegals. Kavanaugh concurring in the grant of the application for stay. I vote to stay the government's application for an interim stay pending appeal of district court's injunction. INA authorizes immigration officers to interrogate any alien or person believed to be an alien as to his right to be or to remain in the United States. Now, this is a topic which comes up a lot in police settings where you talk about stop and frisk. You need to have reason for suspicious behavior. And now this is some slightly different in the sense that this is coming from the perspective of an immigration, so to speak, in investigation that's happening. And normally, if you want to when you want to stop and frisk, you have to, under Terry v. Ohio, you have to establish that there's you have to establish that there's a reasonable basis for your suspicion. Right? You don't have to have probable cause, but you have to have a reasonable basis for your suspicion that you're stating for not frisking, but certainly at the very least for stopping someone. You need to have a basis for understanding for stopping someone who you see. A reasonable basis to believe that they're engaging in a crime. Immigration officers may briefly detain an individual for questioning if they have a reasonable suspicion based on specific articulable facts that the person being questioned is an alien illegally in the United States. So if you see that ICE comes running out of a truck and all of a sudden some brown folks start running, this is probably a good reason that they're running. I mean, that's just like basic facts. But what the petitioner was claiming is that's profiling. If you saw a white person running, you probably wouldn't think that they're running from you. Why are you assuming that a brown person is? And that's pretty much what the root of this argument is, as to whether or not racial profiling should be a factor. Now, personally, I think that it's sort of so insanely liberal to say that we should disregard. I always thought that the whole argument against racial profiling was asinine, because it's almost like we're so determined to show how liberal and fair and not racist we are, that we're going to just pretend that we don't have eyes. This, I believe, may have been the precursor for the whole concept of fiery but mostly peaceful. Like, don't believe your eyes, just believe what your brain is telling you. So yeah, okay, we know that the suspect is a 16-year-old Hispanic 16-year-old Asian male, the person who mugged someone. So would you say it makes sense to start questioning some 40-year-old white woman? Even if she's a Karen, I would say that doesn't make any sense. That's what the argument against racial profiling is. Well, it's not fair. It's not fair that you're targeting a particular demographic based on their appearance. Well, what does that mean? There's a trove of Jewish humor, which, like, going back to in the 20th century, very popular in the 20th century. The jokes are really stale and dated now. Don't get me wrong, and I'm sure that it's not just amongst Jews. You can tell it's a Polish joke also. It fits with a lot of different demographics. But there's a trove of Jewish humor related around a city called Chelm, which had a whole bunch of Jews living there who were reputed to be the stupidest humans on earth. And every joke was about just how incredibly stupid the residents of Chelm were. It's some town in Eastern Europe that was actually called Chelm. So it was the same way you have Polish jokes. So that was, in Jewish humor, it was about Chelm. It was about, some guy, two people from Chelm. So, and there's an old one about, like, a person who was looking for a ruble on a corner at night, and his friend's like, "Wow, you lost your ruble?" So he's like, "Yeah, when did you lose it?" "Oh, I lost it. I lost it like a half hour ago." And the guy's like, "I didn't see you here a half hour ago. Well, you sure you lost it here a half hour ago?" He's like, "No, I lost it down the block." "Well, why are you looking for it over here?" "Well, down the block, there's no lights, so I'm never going to see it there." That's what racial profiling is. I'm going to look over here. Let's just look over here. Let's just look over here. That's took me way too long to get there. Okay. Anyway, I told you it was a bad joke. And I wasn't trying to get the point is just how blindingly stupid it is to say we know what we're looking for, but we're just going to pretend that that's not what we're looking for. So the reasonable suspicion inquiry turns on the totality of particular circumstances, citing Brignoni-Ponce. The government estimates that at least 15 million people are in the United States illegally. Many millions illegally entered or illegally overstayed just in the last few years. Illegal immigration is especially pronounced in LA. Among other locales in the United States, 10% of the people in the LA region are illegally in the United States, meaning about 2 million illegal immigrants out of the total population of 20 million. So basically, you can't throw a rock without hitting an illegal alien. I mean, it's insane. Not surprisingly, given these extraordinary numbers, U.S. immigration officers have prioritized immigration enforcement in the Los Angeles area. Yeah, you sort of don't want to be looking on the block where there's lights just because, it's more well lit here. You sort of want to find the criminals where the criminals are. It's pretty simple. The government sometimes makes brief investigative stops to check the immigration status of those who gather in locations where people are hired for day jobs, who work or appear to work in jobs such as construction, landscaping, agriculture, or car washes. That's for you, Adrian. Car washes that often do not require paperwork and are therefore attractive to illegal immigrants. So there's reasons that they work in these particular types of jobs. There's reasons that they're going to be there, and who do not speak much, if any, English. If the officers learn that the individual they stopped is a U.S. citizen or otherwise lawfully in the United States, they promptly let the individual go. If the individual is illegal in the United States, the officers may arrest the individual and initiate the process for removal. Immigration stops based on reasonable suspicion of illegal presence have been an important component of U.S. immigration enforcement for decades. This is Trump and ICE are not inventing something new. This is how police work is done across several presidential administrations. That's what they did under Obama. How do you think they found illegals? In this case, however, the district court enjoined U.S. immigration officers from making investigative stops in the LA area when these stops are based on the following factors or combination of factors: presence at particular locations, such as bus stops, car washes, day laborer pickup sites, agricultural sites, and the like. 2, the type of work one does. 3, speaking Spanish or speaking English with an accent. And 4, apparent race or ethnicity. The government contends that the injunction will substantially hamper its efforts to enforce immigration laws in the LA area. The government has therefore asked the court to stay the district court's injunction. To obtain a stay from this court, the moving party must demonstrate a fair prospect that if the district court's decision were affirmed on appeal, this court would grant certiorari and reverse, which is Kavanaugh's way of saying, if you guys decide against him, Ninth Circuit, we're going to overturn you. That's probably what's going to happen, because once we're issuing this, it's our way of telling you we probably would reverse. If the full case came up to us, we probably would reverse. So, yeah. The moving party also must show a likelihood that it would suffer irreparable harm if a stay were not granted. These two factors are the most critical under the Ken v. Holder. Particularly in close cases, the court also considers the balance of harms and equities to the parties, including the public interest. In my view, the government has made a sufficient showing to obtain a stay. To begin with, given the significance of the issue of the government's immigration enforcement efforts, this court would likely grant certiorari if this Court of Appeals affirmed the district court's injunction. If it comes up, we're taking this case. You're not going to just rule against Trump on this one and it's going to slide. No, we're going to take it. In addition, on 2 alternative grounds, the government has demonstrated a fair prospect of reversal of the district court's injunction. First, under the court's decision in LA v. Lyons from 1983, plaintiffs likely lack Article 3 standing to seek a broad injunction restricting immigration officers from making these investigative stops. This is Judge Kavanaugh telling the court, you're out of your lane. This is not for you. Article 3 is where we reference the judiciary. Article 3 doesn't give you power here to stand in the way of immigration. So you likely lack standing here. You're not Know what your lane is and when you've drifted from it. And this is what he's saying here. In Lyons, the court held that standing to obtain future injunctive relief does not exist merely because plaintiffs experience past harm and fear its recurrence. What matters is the reality of the threat of repeated injury, not subjective apprehensions. Can't be that like, oh, he's scared. He's scared because ICE is engaging in raids, and now he's scared. No, that's not a viable basis for this plaintiff to come forward. Plaintiff standing theory largely tracks the theory rejected in Lyons. Like in Lyons, plaintiffs here allege that they were a subject of unlawful enforcement actions in the past, namely being stopped for immigration questioning, allegedly without reasonable suspicion of unlawful presence. So they're like, hey, I was stopped. I wasn't supposed to be stopped. That's not right. And I don't want that to happen again. I'm afraid it's going to happen again. And like in Lyons, plaintiffs seek a forward-looking injunction to enjoin law enforcement from stopping them without reasonable suspicion in the future. But like in Lyons, plaintiffs have no good basis to believe that law enforcement will unlawfully stop them in the future based on prohibited factors, and certainly no good basis for believing that any attack on the plaintiffs is imminent. Therefore, they lack Article 3 standing. The court doesn't have power to help them. Quote, absent a sufficient likelihood that plaintiffs will again be wronged in a similar way, they are no more entitled to injunction than any other citizen of Los Angeles, and the federal court may not entertain a claim by any and all citizens who no more than assert that certain practices of law enforcement officers are unconstitutional. So just because this particular plaintiff comes in here saying, I was stopped, I wasn't supposed to be stopped, I'm a legal American citizen, that doesn't mean that they're likely to be stopped again. That doesn't mean they're facing a wrong. Plaintiff standing theory is especially deficient in this case because immigration officers also use their experience to stop suspected illegal aliens based on a variety of factors. So even if the government had a policy of making stops based on the factors prohibited by the district courts, immigration officers might not rely only on those factors if and when they stop plaintiffs in the future. Second, even if plaintiffs had standing, the government has a fair prospect of succeeding on the Fourth Amendment issue. This is a much broader recognition of ICE's authority. To stop an individual for brief questioning about immigration status, the government must have a reasonable suspicion that the individual is illegally present in the U.S. Reasonable suspicion is a lesser requirement than probable cause, and considerably short of the preponderance of evidence standard. So this is a different standard. I'm sure you've heard of the phrase probable cause. Reasonable suspicion is much lower than probable cause. Whether an officer has reasonable suspicion depends on the totality of the circumstances. And here, those circumstances include that there's an extremely high number and percentage of illegal immigrants in LA, that those individuals tend to gather in certain locations to see daily work, that these individuals often work in certain kinds of jobs, like day labor, landscaping, agriculture, etc., because they're trying to stay away from any sort of paperwork, and that many of these illegally in the LA come from Mexico or Central America and don't speak much English. These are all reasonable bases to conclude, hey, this guy's probably here illegally. It's not like they're breaking into law firms and rounding up the brown people, right? I mean, there could be illegal aliens there, but they're basically going where the rats are, to the rat's nest. You all know they're going to the rat's nest. You all know it. Listing any number of factors that contribute to reasonable suspicion or legal presence. To be clear, apparent ethnicity alone cannot furnish reasonable suspicion. So we don't want to hear from any of these ICE agents, well, he was brown, that's why we stopped him. No, there's got to be more. Under this court's case law regarding immigration stops, however, it can be a relevant factor when considered along with other salient factors. And the lower court is basically saying you can't consider that factor. You can't consider the skin color a factor. Why? Why would that possibly be? Well, that's racist. It's not racist. It's not racist. You see an old white grandmother, you tell me, do you think it's an illegal alien? You see an old black grandmother, you think it's an illegal alien? Who's sitting there, yelling at her kids in common vernacular for the black community. Would any of you think it's a legal alien? No, you wouldn't. Under this court's precedent, not to mention common sense, those circumstances taken together can constitute at least reasonable suspicion of illegal presence in the U.S. And importantly, reasonable suspicion means only that immigration officers may briefly stop the individual and inquire about immigration status. If the person is a U.S. citizen or otherwise lawfully in the U.S., that individual will be free to go after the brief encounter. Only if the person is illegally in the United States may the stop lead to further immigration proceedings. In short, given this court's precedents, the government has demonstrated a fair prospect of success both on standing and Fourth Amendment grounds. To conclude otherwise, this court would likely have to overrule or significantly narrow two separate lines of precedents. Lyons line of cases about standing, and basically all our Fourth Amendment line of cases about reasonable suspicion. Plaintiffs have not made persuasive argument for this court to overrule a narrow line narrow either line of precedent, much less both of them. The government has also demonstrated that it would likely suffer irreparable harm if the district court's injunction is not stayed. Irreparable harm is one of the necessary elements if you're going to get relief from a stay that's been approved. So, as the court has indicated, anytime the government is enjoined by a court from effectuating statutes enacted by representatives of its people, it suffers a form of irreparable injury. So by definition, when you're stopping the government from doing its job, that's an irreparable injury. So it is in this case, particularly given the millions of individuals illegally in the United States, the myriad significant economic and social problems caused by illegal immigration, and the government's efforts to prioritize stricter enforcement of the immigration laws enacted by Congress. Notably, moreover, the district court's injunction threatens contempt sanctions against immigration officers who make brief investigative stops later found by the court to violate the injunction. It's the way of trying to chill them, saying, if you're going to go out there and make these stops, we're going to hit you with fines, penalties, potentially imprisonment. And that's the court trying to be as overbearing as possible to threaten employees of the executive branch. The prospect of such after-the-fact judicial second-guessing and contempt proceedings will inevitably chill lawful immigration enforcement efforts. On the last two most critical factors, therefore, the government has demonstrated that a stay is warranted. Turning then to the balance of harms and equities, as with many other applications to interim relief to this court, the harms and equities may appear weighty on both sides. In those circumstances, to borrow Justice Scalia's apt words from a different context, trying to determine whether one's party's harms or equities outweigh another party's can be akin to judging whether a particular line is stronger than a particular rock is heavy. When you try and figure, because you're supposed to have balancing of equities and it's supposed to favor whoever is coming in here seeking relief from us. So really the government should need to show that. And sometimes it's really hard to tell, like who's potentially suffering greater harms. That's because the court must balance the harms to regulated and negatively affected parties, not only against the harms to the government as an institution, but also against the harms of third parties who otherwise would benefit from the challenged government action. In any event, balance of harms and equities, in this case, tips in favor of the government. The interests of individuals who are legally in the country and avoiding being stopped by law enforcement for questioning is ultimately an interest in evading the law. That is not an especially weighty legal interest. Now, frankly, I don't think that Kavanaugh here is being logical. It's not the interests of individuals who are legally in the country and avoiding being stopped. Really, he should be measuring, to be fair, as far as being an intelligent assessment here, as far as being a properly well thought out assessment. Because I when I'm approaching the law, I want to approach it with what's logical. And I would agree with someone from the left who would say that this is an illogical analysis. This part, I agree with what he was saying till now. This part here is somewhat illogical because he's focusing on the interests of individuals who are here illegally. He should be focusing on the interests of people who are here legally and being detained when they're stopped. So someone who's here legally and wrongfully stopped because of their skin color. Those interests are outweighed by the government's interests. I would agree with that assessment, but he's breaking the analysis, comparing the government's interest to those who are here illegally, which doesn't make any sense if you actually think through what Judge Kavanaugh is supposed to be thinking through here. But so if someone from the left was critiquing this part of the decision, I would agree that Kavanaugh here seems to have gotten like a little bit lost. Just saying. We'll come back in just a moment. Let me catch up on some of these chats. 14 times arrested, 10 shekels for the Philly failure father content. Yeah, we're gonna. I think we're on our way there. And you did it twice. Thank you. Aaron really wants the Philly failure father. If Branca has figured out Rumble, but Joe, who's not a boomer, cannot. Concerns me Joe may actually be a boomer. Sorry, Joe, you're no longer Gen X. You moved up 2 or 3 generations. I showed you what was happening there. I showed you what the story was. I gave it to you. You saw it. Let me see if it's... Yeah, look at this. Look at this. 2%. Well, what the hell's happening here? Reload. I keep trying to get into Rumble. Look at this. Nothing. It normally takes less than 3 seconds for this to upload. Everything else is working on my computer, so it's not... I don't think it's my computer. How the hell do YouTube ding me for 2 yellow super chats? I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to. It happened to me once also. That came out twice. Federal v. State is the wheels on the bus. We're going round and round. Mm-hmm. Round and round, round and... Holy moly. Why is this not? J.H. Schwabach saying, Joe, I have a computer problem I need your help with. This is good. Yeah. Any of you who have computer problems that you're frustrated with, feel free, send me a super chat. I will do everything I can to walk you through that problem with all of my great expertise as far as how to fix modern day 2025 problems, tech problems. I am your guy. I'm the guy you want to come to. I'm that guy. I'm that guy I'm there for you. But let's see what you got. I know you do a 5-night a week show, but I only see 4. How do I change my calendar in Windows to Jewish calendar? Okay, that's fair enough. That's pretty funny, JH. He's pointing out that over the summer, I really wasn't doing shows on Saturday or Sunday, and that he wants me to get back in and start doing those shows. That's what it is, because I'm never here. I'm never going to be on Fridays. That's not going to happen. So he's pointing out, Joe, you're not here Fridays. You're supposed to be doing 5 nights a week. What's happening here? I say 5 or 6, and he's saying he only sees 4. How do I change my calendar in Windows to Jewish calendar so I can see all your content? Is it settings? Is it hardware? Do I need to snip something off the tip? Yes. And yes, it's several. It's difficult. I like making it a challenge to find me. I'm not very smart, and you're not my leader. Thank you, JH. You're awesome. You're really funny. That was very funny. Noted. Okay, noted. I think I can. Next week, 5 shows. Leonardo. Next week, 5 shows. I didn't want to tell you about the Jewish calendar that's coming up like in 2 weeks. We're coming into Jewish holiday season. And they are like basically very, very aggressive in eating up normal work schedule. Very aggressive in eating up this year. Some years they come out on the weekends. Not this year. This year, the Jewish holidays which there's like over the next 5 weeks, there's at least 7 normal work days that I'm not going to be here. So I really should start cracking down. Anyhow, but I'm going to let you all know about that as we get there. As we get closer. Joe, Kagan knows Trump has options if she rejects the case to go to other justices, as you know from your SCOTUS case. True, but she could have made it more difficult, and she didn't. That's why you got to tip your cap where you can. Joan Rivers finding Big Mike. Joan Rivers finding Big Mike. Okay, let's all, okay, Michelle is a man, okay? Remember, LA is within 100 miles of the border where SCOTUS has already allowed checkpoints on highways. If SCOTUS was to reverse on this, would it jeopardize those checkpoints? Well, I'll tell you, I don't know if it would reverse. Maybe. I'm not sure. I think checkpoints, I think when you're in a car, you end up putting yourself in greater subjecting yourself to greater scrutiny. I know it's not supposed to be. I know it's not supposed to be that way. I just seen a lot of cases which seem to come out that way. I know that Terry v. Ohio still applies there. I'm just saying. I appreciate pointing out how many illegals there are and the problem it is. Yes, Kelly. That's a sign that he's not immune to the situation. He's very, very aware. Can't believe it's been 14 months. Look at this. Can't believe it's been 14 months. I'm a mod for Gen X Talks, and we need a Good Lawgic GXT collab someday. Rewatch crew in the house. Sure. You let me know, and I'm always happy to make appearances. So you can just hit me up on X, and we'll work out a time that works for you guys. Did Obama ever get sanctioned for deporting all his illegals like Trump? Of course not. Of course not. I don't remember if there was ever a TRO for him on that issue. Hypocrites. Of course there never was. They're ridiculous. They're absolutely ridiculous. In case you're wondering how things are going with Rumble, 22%. I can't. Then it goes back to 2%. Then it'll jump up to 22%. This has to be a Rumble problem. I don't know how anyone else is live on Rumble, but I've tried several. I'll try it again on this tab. Watch. I'll try another tab. We'll do it. We'll do it right now. Create new live stream. Select the placeholder. Just need this thing to upload. Nothing. It's crazy. So I don't think Rumble's going to work tonight. All right. Let's get back into our decision here because I'm enjoying it. Now here's Kavanaugh coming in here and saying, "Don't worry, I'm not like please don't hate me." Where he says, don't think that I'm just, someone who's, don't start calling me a fascist. I'm sympathetic because some people aren't accustomed to actually standing up for what they believe in. To be sure, I recognize and fully appreciate that many illegal immigrants come to the U.S. to escape poverty and the lack of freedom and opportunities in their home countries and to make better lives for themselves and their families. It just, oh God, stop it, Brett. Stop it. I understand that many feel somewhat misled by the varying U.S. approaches to immigration enforcement over the last few decades. The fact remains that under the laws passed by Congress and the president, they are acting illegally by remaining in the United States, at least until Congress and the president choose some other legislative approach to legalize some or all those individuals now illegally present in the country. And by illegally immigrating into remain in the country, they're not only violating the immigration laws, but also jumping in front of those non-citizens who follow the rules and wait in line to immigrate in the United States through the legal immigration process. It's like oh gosh. This is why I say that Kavanaugh is like, at best, St. Louis. When we're doing that whole right to left thing, and looking at map of the United States, people look at him as like he's on the right. No. Map of the United States, he's in St. Louis. And Kavanaugh is further left. Further left. For those reasons, the interests of illegal immigrants in evading questioning are not particularly substantial as a legal matter. Moreover, as for stops of those individuals who are legally in the country, the questioning in those circumstances is typically brief. It's not that much of an inconvenience. And finally, although the dissent emphasizes the force allegedly used by immigration officers, that's not the issue in this case. District Court enjoined the government from stopping individuals for questioning based on several enumerated factors. So it doesn't matter what force they're using. They're not allowed to do anything, which is ridiculous. Injunction is silent as to the use of force. It's not necessary for the injunction to address the use of force question because the Fourth Amendment's reasonableness standard will still govern. To the extent that excessive force has been used, the Fourth Amendment prohibits such action. Remedies should be available in federal courts. So if someone abuses them under, improperly, so they can get remedies still. I agree with the dissent on that point. Oh, so such remedies should be available in the federal court. I agree with the dissent on that point. But to reiterate the injunction against brief stops or questions does not address the use of force. In short, balance of harms and equities favors the government. I already walked you through how he's really, the way he framed the question, the analysis, I disagree with his analysis there, especially in an immigration case like this one. And we should stress the role of the judiciary. The judiciary does not set immigration policy or decide enforcement priorities. It should come as no surprise that some administrators may be more laissez-faire in enforcing immigration law and other administrations more strict. But you guys sat back when Obama was doing his thing. You didn't talk up then. Article 3 judges may have views on which policy approach is better or fairer, but it's not your place. It's not your. Judges are not appointed to make policy calls, which is something that they need to start pounding home to all 294 district court judges. Judges are not appointed, or 1,300 of them, whatever. I think it's 1,300 lefty ones. Judges are not appointed to make those policy calls. We merely ensure, in justiciable cases, the executive branch acts within the confines of the Constitution. Just as this court a few years ago declined to step outside our constitutionally assigned role to improperly compel greater executive branch enforcement of immigration laws. So we didn't force Biden to actually do his freaking job, even though we all knew that he wasn't doing it, because that's not our role. We now likewise must decline to step outside our constitutionally assigned role to improperly restrict reasonable executive branch enforcement of immigration law. This is a good point by Kavanaugh. Consistency and neutrality are hallmarks of good judging. And in my view, we abide by these enduring judicial values in this case by granting this stay. In sum, the government has demonstrated a fair prospect of success in the merits and has met the other factors for interim stay pending appeal of district court's injunction. I therefore vote to grant the government's application. After JD Vance's 2 terms, can we get him on SCOTUS? He would be great. He would be great. Was there ever? I don't know of a former president who ever served. I don't think any former presidents ever served on the bench. But that's a great idea, Joe. So here's Sotomayor and Kagan dissenting, and no one cares. No one cares. They're going to sit there whining about force. No one cares. So there you go. Anyway, ICE, go get them, round them up. And basically, if you're coming in late, the point is this: you can't say, "Oh, there's a brown person. I'm going to start questioning him." But you can use a totality of factors, and the color of the skin could be a fair factor, and their inability to speak English, that's another fair factor, and the fact that they're standing by Home Depot looking for a day job because they don't want to have to provide paperwork, that's another good factor. So in ICE raids that are happening by Home Depot, those are pretty good factors. That's what the Supreme Court is saying. Those are all pretty logical ways of looking at this whole thing. So there you go. There you go. Go get them. Now, again, that case still has to wind its way through court. We'll see what the Ninth Circuit says. But it seems like a very positive sign that ultimately the Supreme Court is not going to allow an injunction to stay or to stand up. And that serves my That serves my thinking just right, mister. So, yeah, good job by the Supreme Court today. Supreme Court, which did a lot better of a job than the Second Circuit. We're going to get to the Second Circuit decision in a moment. There's a couple of other factors, things that have come up that I just wanted to address really quickly. Was he really? Shia coming in here with the historical knowledge. Taft was a Chief Justice after President? Is that really true? The only thing I knew about Taft is that they had to make a bigger bathtub for him. That boy was large. How long was he on the Supreme Court? 10th Chief Justice of the United States, starting from 1921 to 1930. Wow. Fascinating. There you go. Go get him, Shy. Gimme Hunt. William Howard Taft from my great state of Ohio served as president and SCOTUS. Everyone's just bashing me on my lack of early 20th century history. Fair enough. I stand corrected, and I appreciate being corrected. I'm certainly not looking to mislead anyone on anything. So I want to address a couple of things before we get to our other two main topics of tonight. A couple of things I want to address real quick. One is this thing right here. This is Maria Bartiromo with Ed Martin. And frankly, I like both these folks. I just don't know. I don't understand this.
Real quick, what about the January 6th committee? Did they destroy evidence? Is there criminality there?
Of course, we're all in that too. And trust me, a lot of people did not get a pardon that were involved in the select committee, and they ought to be keeping an eye on their mailbox because there's a lot to be asked about.
And the pardons that were given out were done by an auto pen. Are they legitimate?
Well, yeah, I'm the pardon attorney, so I'm in that too. I can tell you we're investigating how the pardons were granted. It was not like anything in the history of America what not Joe Biden, his staffers did, not just with the auto pen, but with faking him out on the memos. More to come, Maria. I'm telling you, Pam Bondi has let us loose, and when this comes out, it'll take the whole of these people's hoaxes down, and we're doing it bit by bit, and it's fantastic. It's a great privilege.
Unbelievable. Real quick, what
Ed.
about the January 6th
Ed. You don't need the whole auto pen. You don't need to go after the other people. Just charge them. They're not valid pardons. You're the pardon attorney, and you're just swallowing and saying, "Oh, that's okay." I don't understand what's happening here. What is happening here? President is empowered to pardon any crime. That's what he has a power to do. He can pardon a crime. He cannot immunize an individual. You pardon a crime, not the person. Whatever crimes they commit that you're aware of, you can pardon. You cannot pardon a person and say whatever this person did is fine. He doesn't have that authority. Even if he purports to exert that authority, to wave his magic wand and saying, I hereby confer upon you holiness status, that I confer upon you the blessings of being infallible for a certain action, irrespective of what steps you took, is ridiculous. There's nothing that implies that a president has that type of power. He has a power to say, I pardon this person for crimes A, B, C, D, for crimes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and list off 4 billion crimes that he's empowered to do. But he has to know what crimes he's pardoning. And someone who says whatever they did in conjunction with J6 and doesn't know what crimes they committed, clearly, that is not a valid pardon. It's like saying you're ordering from a menu and you have no idea what is on the menu. That doesn't make any sense. That's a poor analogy. I can do better. I will come up with a better analogy. I'm not sure if I'll come up with one tonight, but if it springs in my head, I'll pop it out at you. He doesn't have that type of authority. There's a difference between pardoning an action and pardoning a person. And the president is empowered to pardon an action, which means he has to know what actions he's pardoning. But he cannot confer upon them saintly status and say, I pardon this individual. He's not God. In this capacity, he has the role of a king, and a king pardons crimes against the state, but he cannot confirm a blessing upon the individual. That's the distinction. God gives blessings. A king forgives crimes against the state. And there's nothing in the Constitution which supports the notion that he can just confer upon someone that I don't care what you did. I don't know what you did. I'm saying you're okay. And that's what is happening with that J6 committee. That's what's happening with Hunter Biden and anything that he did in the past 10 years. If you ask me about Hunter Biden, who frankly, I don't give the slightest damn about prosecuting Hunter Biden. I'm not, even though I think he's a slimy loser, I don't think that we gain anything by going after him. But I'm simply saying, just as a matter of what the law is, I think that he's pardoned for the crimes he was charged with, because those are crimes the president knew about, and they're incorporated in the overall pardon. But any other crimes that he's not charged with, I would say, how was he pardoned? Similarly, there's pardons that were issued to Fauci. How can you have no idea what he did? I mean, just think of how insane that is. Imagine the president issues a pardon. And most of them, you don't have to pardon on the last day. Imagine he issues a pardon when he's a month into his administration, and then finds out a year and a half later about a whole slew of crimes he didn't know about. Would that make any sense? He's like, oh yeah, well, it was a blanket pardon. The way you worded it was a blanket pardon, so now the guy's free. It's ridiculous. So the way they did the pardons is if greater power than God. God forgives after the sin, not before. Yeah. And here's the other thing. God knows all the sins an individual has committed. So when he's issuing a blessing on a person, everything is because of omniscience. He understands what he's pardoning. That's part of that's why you would reserve that to God as opposed to a king. I can order from menu and say, bring it all to me. You see, that's why I said I don't like the analogy I was giving. Before you attack my analogy, just at least respect the fact that I said that's a poor analogy, because I thought of that already. I thought of that. What it basically is like saying is, so now you're making me feel like an onus to actually come up with a healthier analogy. I'll think of something. I don't know. I'm going to think of something. You can't tell me that I'm going to use your analogy against you when I already said before you sent this chat that that's a poor analogy. A president can pardon but cannot give immunity. Well, that's what I started with. But immunity implies that the shortcoming immunity is for going forward, looking into the future. What I'm saying is he cannot give immunity for things that were done in the past without knowing what was done in the past. He has to know, because he's only pardoning the crimes. Not that that he says, I like this person and I don't care what sins they've committed, I'm pardoning them. He has to know what he's excusing. To me, this is obvious. But anyhow, so that's a frustrating thing to me that keeps coming up. Someone shared this with me. I think it might have been Brian Ogden. Now let's just do it real quick. I'm just asking you this. Do you guys think this is real? I'm having a little intermission here before we get to the other two stories. Do you think this is real?
Your people that you need to take that hat off now is disgusting. You're disgusting. You're wearing this outfit that my husband bought for this country. And look at you. Look at you. You're a piece of doo-doo and you know it. You've ruined this country. You and all of your people that have robots. Robots. You're robots. You drank the Kool-Aid, didn't you, huh? Didn't you? You need to take this soldier outfit off because you don't deserve to wear it. You are ruining this country. You are ruining this country. How dare you? All of your people that.
So that's what I was like, this can't be real. This can't be real. This can't. I thought it was funny, but I was like, that can't be real. But I didn't want to let it go if it was, in case it, yeah. But right now, a lot of people are making a big deal about what Ed Martin is talking about with respect to those auto pens. Here is a whole complaint about his auto pens.
The U.S. Constitution vests executive power in a single person, the president. At the founding, the president exercised the executive power through only a small group of trusted advisors and personnel. In fact, President Washington had a 4-member cabinet. Today, the president directs a Leviathan executive branch with 15 cabinet departments and at least 4 million full-time executive branch employees. The executive branch proliferation has a single source of democratic legitimacy, that by order of U.S. Constitution's Article 2, the president is both elected by the American people and vested with the executive power, all of it. Traditionally, the president takes positive actions and authenticates those actions through his signature. His signature is required for the most significant actions he may undertake: to sign an executive order, to take any action invested in him by the Constitution, as in granting a pardon, and to take the most important action of all, to sign a bill into law. In all these cases, the president's signature is itself the protection of democratic principle. When the president signs, he communicates his assent and endorsement of the action he takes. The auto pen is a device that signs the president's signature to a document. The oversight project, of which I am a board member, has discovered that the Biden White House deployed an auto pen to affix President Biden's signature to pardons, prison commutations, executive orders, and presidential proclamations. The Oversight Project's research has found that the Biden White House first deployed the auto pen to affix President Biden's signature to a proclamation on day 5 of his administration, and that there were at least 3 different auto pen signatures in use throughout President Biden's tenure in the White House. In June 2022, the Biden White House began deploying the auto pen to sign clemency warrants and executive orders. Auto pen use skyrocketed from there. We found that of the 51 clemency warrants issued during the Biden presidency, over half, 32 in total, were signed with an auto pen. And these include some of the most controversial acts of clemency of the Biden presidency, including death row commutations and the preemptive pardons of members of the Biden family, Dr. Anthony Fauci, General Mark Milley, and more that were issued in the final days of the Biden presidency. We reviewed President Biden's schedule in his publicly available media and were unable to find any record of President Biden's personally approving these actions, such as a statement issued by the president himself to reporters. In addition, we found that the Biden White House used the auto pen to affix President Biden's signature to clemency warrants and executive orders while the president himself was in Washington, D.C. for at least some of that day, and thus was presumably available to sign important executive actions. Finally, we found multiple days where President Biden wet signed a bill into law, but used an auto pen to issue an executive order or for other important executive actions. The Biden White House's widespread use of an auto pen to affix President Biden's signatures to documents that exercise executive powers belonging solely to the president poses significant constitutional, legal, and practical considerations. Once the president's signature is copied and loaded into the auto pen, the machine can sign documents as the president himself would. To be blunt, by using the auto pen, anyone can sign documents as the president himself.
So, and that's really the key to his point. That by using the auto pen, anyone can be the president, and we have no idea what the president is doing versus what is being done by others who are in his orbit or have access to the auto pen. We have no idea what, if anything, he actually assented to, and that there are hundreds and potentially thousands of things that bear Biden's signature that we have no way of ever knowing that he's the one who signed off on it. That's essentially what he's getting at here. And he's doing a great job spelling out exactly how rampant the problem is. I have a bit of a hot take on this that I know is probably going to get some of you upset. I know before I say this is not going to be popular. I understand. Some of you are going to sit there looking at your TV or your phone and you're going to boo me. I know this. I understand this. But I'm pragmatic. I'm pragmatic in recognizing how do you purport to fix this? There's no way you can just say blanket, everything he did is undone. I don't see how that's a possible answer. I don't see how that's a viable way for America to proceed. It is very unfortunate. If we find out, let's say you found evidence that he wasn't supposed to be president, that he lost the election, verifiable, indisputable evidence that he wasn't supposed to be president. Forget about the auto pen. Let's find that. Let's say we verify that that out of the 80 million votes that were cast for him, 60 million of them were complete crap, not real, and Trump won in a landslide in 2020. So everything he did was without an actual authority as a valid president of the United States. Let's assume that evidence would be discovered. Or you can give another example. Let's assume that you could find verifiable proof that Obama was born in Kenya. Verifiable, indisputable proof, definitely born in Kenya. Now what? It's 2025. What do we do now? Are you going to tell me that the Affordable Care Act is not a valid law anymore? You're going to tell me that the various acts that were signed under the Biden administration are not valid law anymore? See, the problem that you have is that once you start pulling on this string, you might be able to pull it out in individual examples. You might be able to pull it out and say, okay, this thing that's done is not him and is not valid. And if you can do that, and actually, the burden of proof would be on the person making such a claim. We're never going to come to a place where we're going to say, let's assume that whatever he did was invalid. That's not going to happen. Anyone who's telling you that something like that can or may happen is a grifter who is lying to you, figuring that you're MAGA, figuring that you're MAGA and that you're too stupid to recognize that such a thing will never, ever, ever happen. That's not possible to happen. It just doesn't make any sense. So now you have to ask yourself, okay, here we are in 2025, and there's all these different actions that were taken by someone who was never supposed to be president, or not even taken by a person who was president. It was taken by people in his orbit who had access to his auto pen. So what are you going to do with that now? You're going to say that everything he signed, they're never going to come to an assumption, or let's say you could prove that he was mentally incompetent. Same thing. These are all deficiencies in having a cognitive president with the wherewithal to make a determination to sign off on something and actually turn it into a valid presidential act. Either you attack his presidency, his cognition, or his presence, and even knowledge of action being taken. How you can't assert a blanket rule. Once we're starting with a given of there's an assumption that everything was taken, the steps that were followed were all according to Hoyle. But there's another concept also which has logic behind it. And that concept is that at a certain point in time, you sort of have to let things be as they are. Because you spend your entire existence like picking at a scab, picking at a scab, picking at a scab, like picking out on the whole, born in Kenya thing. So what would be the ramifications at this point? So all the people who impacted their lives in reliance that this was a valid presidential act, and there are countless hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of people who are acting in good faith reliance that the actions taken by a president are a valid presidential act, or the actions that purport to be taken by the president are a valid presidential act. So you try taking that his Jobs Act and saying, well, he didn't sign it, so it's not a valid law. So let's overturn that. I don't foresee that ever happening. Ever. Because even if such a thing made sense to do, which I can hear an argument that it would make sense to do it. I can hear an argument, but the counter argument is, since there are so many millions of people who have been acting in the good faith reliance that this is a valid law, that fairness dictates that we continue to treat it as if everything was done properly and not overturn it. The same way if you basically overturn the Affordable Care Act, and now that results in tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people being affected with respect to their health care and upsetting the entire apple cart. And I'll tell you right now, you will never find a single judge in this country who will say, do away with the Affordable Care Act because Obama was not a legitimate president. Even if it was proven verifiably that he was not a legitimate president, he never should have been president. But once we have a person sitting in that role and we have enough of a reliance that this was presidential action, valid presidential action, at a certain point in time, you sort of need to continue with that myth being treated as being reality, even if it's proven that it's myth. At a certain point in time, it's illogical to say, now we're going to now that doesn't count. At a certain point in time, there is like almost a no backsies effect of, the election was stolen. He was there. Can't go back in time and make Trump president during that 4-year period. So he stole the election. Flat out stole the election. Had 20 million votes and stole the election. Now what? What are you going to do? It's 2025. He's practically he's a vegetable. What are you going to do? And that's why I think that this whole fixation on the auto pen, it feels like it's a grift. It feels as if it's not something that's ever going to be effective. It feels to me as if this is something that, certainly with respect to any statutes and EOs that he passed, those are never going to be overturned. No judge is ever going to overturn them. I don't think Clarence Thomas, if he was sitting in a court, would overturn them. I don't think he would, because he'd just be like, it just doesn't make sense to do that with so many people having acted upon in reliance upon the fact that it was a valid presidential act. So to just pretend that you're not having that type of impact on people because the facts don't support because in reality he wasn't supposed to have been there, or he didn't actually sign it. You're not going to find a judge that's going to sign off on that. So someone was telling you, hey, he didn't sign that. He didn't even know it was being done. I agree with you. That's probably true about a lot of what happened under Biden. And if you're telling me it affects an individual, you're telling me it relates to a pardon. Let's talk about the commutations that he referred to. You know what a commutation is? Commutation is someone sitting in prison, and he commuted someone's sentence. Now, this individual here, I don't even know his name. I'm not sure what his name is. He's a whistleblower, but let's assume everything he's telling us is 100% truth, 100% truth. I have no reason to doubt him. So now let's assume that he's right, that the president was unaware of these commutations. So you tell me now that this person who was pardoned by and believed that he got a valid pardon and released from prison by a presidential commutation, that we're going to go round this guy up now and throw him back in prison. He's been walking free for the last 2 years thinking I have a valid commutation, and now he's living his life. And now you're going to find, you think you're going to find a judge who's going to say, yeah, throw him back in prison because commutation is not valid. I think you're smoking pot. I think you're high on cocaine. If you think you'll ever find a single judge who's going to say, yeah, I'm going to take that guy and throw him back in prison now. Even if you show him 100% verifiable evidence that that commutation was not signed by Biden, it was signed by someone, and that Biden had no idea, never heard of this guy in his life, and that it was someone else in his office who signed off on that commutation. I'm telling you right now, zero chance that that person ever gets thrown back in prison. Because there's a concept of once something is done, it's done. It's done, and it seems to all who see it to be valid and effective, it's done. Now, you might come and be upset with me for expressing this to you and say that's crap. You're basically giving your blessing to corrupt people acting corruptly, Joe. What the hell's wrong with you? And I wouldn't blame you for feeling that way. I wouldn't blame you for thinking that way. And I feel gross espousing this position. I don't like espousing this position, but I'm a sufficient pragmatist to say I don't see a judge ever overturning it. Because you're basically telling them, to throw some guy back in prison. Now, to the extent that it may relate to a pardon, something that the person may not have actually had any genuine reliance on yet, in that area, I think that you're more likely to actually, if you can show that the pardon he gave the J6 committee, which was a global pardon to all people in one big giant pardon, and basically, giving them for any of their crimes, there maybe if you could find a judge who's not going to be sufficiently tilted towards Democrats that they're looking to protect Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff and that whole crew, maybe. But if you think that this is going to be like a global thing and that the thousands of auto pen signatures are going to go out the window, I'm telling you right now, you're not living in reality. And anyone who's promising like, oh, we're going to go after this auto pen thing, I'm sorry. That's never going to happen. Never going to happen. I'll tell you, I'm going to make a prediction right now. My prediction is no law, statute, pardon that was signed by AutoPen will ever be overturned on the basis of it being an AutoPen. That the AutoPen factor will not play a role. That's my prediction for you on anything. And I think it was used. I do think it was abused. I think that it was corruptly used by some of the most corrupt people who ever set foot inside the Beltway. The most evil, vile, disgusting people who are crooked, and they can go to jail for that, in theory. That I'd like to see. But the impact of what they've done is not going to be overturned because they used an auto pen. I'd be astonished if that happened. The president can give immunity if DOJ gives immunity, then the president can give immunity. All DOJ powers come from POTUS. The immunity that you're referencing there, and I think that's I think philosophically you're asking a great question. The immunity that you're referencing there is a commitment not to prosecute. That's what that is. It's a commitment not to prosecute, which the government is bound by. So it's not that the crime goes away. It's a commitment: we will not prosecute you. That is very different from saying that the crime that, but it's not absolving the individual. It's basically saying any crimes that you reference in advance, we're pardoning those crimes. That's what it's doing. It's still not sanctioning the individual. It's a good question, though. It's a fair. That's a reasonable question. Since Biden's brain was mush, why didn't the staff put the paper in front of him and have him sign it? He probably was on vacation. He took over 500 days of vacation. You're welcome, Brian. The wet signature is confirmation of intent of POTUS. Auto pen can be used for non-official actions. All others should be wet signature. You're preaching the choir. Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you on that. Hey, look at that. We hit our goal. Look at that. Well done. I don't know if it was John who made us reach that goal, but good for you, John. I need to get moving because I got now 3 stories to cover. If you don't win before electoral college votes, then you've lost. All actions are now okay as electoral college vote is end of race. So you're saying it doesn't matter whether you got 20 million votes once you got the electoral college vote? It's a fair point. You can't unbake the election cake. Congress can repeal laws he signed. That's true. That's true. With absolute evidence, you could vacate auto pen pardons he wasn't aware of. And that's what I said. Maybe, probably. But you're going to need a lot of proof. Burn's going to be on you. Could you, Joe, construct an amendment with language to carve out ceremonial signatures for auto pen versus policy signatures, wet signatures for Congress? Now? Off the top of my head? That's a tall order. That's not easy. Are you asking me if I could do it? Could you, Joe? That's how I read this. Construct an amendment with language to carve out ceremonial signatures for auto pen versus policy signatures. I don't even know what I would qualify as being a ceremonial signature. What would I qualify as being a ceremonial signature? I would want his name on treaties. I would want his name on executive orders. I want to see his name on pardons and commutations. Here's the other thing is I would want him to have the authority to sign when he's on vacation. So you have a document that's in DC and a presidential act has to be done. So this is something that a lot of lawyers, judges, people in the legal industry will rely on a third party to sign on their behalf. It's supposed to be actions that are taken with the direct instruction of the actor. So you'll see all the time that they'll have someone sign for them. And using an auto pen makes sense in that setting. But I would think it makes sense that there has to be verifiable evidence that is presented to whoever is using the auto pen that the president indeed has authorized the use of the auto pen for this particular signature. Because that's ultimately what we need. You don't need to have the wet signature is just the evidence. What we're really looking for is the intent of the commander-in-chief. We don't need, it's not that you need the pen to be in his holy hand. It's not, he's not a religious figure by him touching the pen. The point is it's his intent being manifested in a wet signature, which we're lacking that potentially when we're using the auto pen. But if in some other way he's able to manifest his intent and have that be verifiable, then I have no problem if the actual signature there is done via auto pen. And I'm sure you wouldn't either. He could be the president no matter where in the country, on the planet he is. So if he's visiting Russia and he wants to authorize a strike on China, that's his prerogative. And even if he needs to sign documents, as long as it's manifest that that's what his will and intent is, that he should be able to do that no matter where on the planet he is. Or to commute someone's sentence or any other presidential act. So I wouldn't be constructing an amendment like this. I would, if anything, I would say that the amendment should be constructed as far as that there needs to be a manifestation of the presidential intent in order for the president's actions to be deemed official. And that manifestation can come either via a wet signature or via other verifiable means that manifest his intent. And in that way, carve out just a blanket auto pen as having the power that it currently holds. That's, I think, the more effective way to do it. To express to have an amendment that would actually demand that, or not even demand, just basically disqualify any presidential action that fails to properly reflect, to indicate that it reflects the intent of the acting president. So you can either have a wet signature or you can have an auto pen together with something else which is verifiable. That's the best I can do. You guys are awesome. Yes, we're gonna have to talk about. If you guys have a video, I'm sure I can dig it up. The Phillies, Karen, but I'm gonna be talking about that. We're gonna be doing that. Let's get through this other stuff fast. Okay. So some of you may remember a woman named Jean Carroll. She got a verdict against Trump for in excess of, I think, $83 million on the basis of including $65 million worth of punitive damages. That first she sued him under a law that was made up by Kathy Hochul. What I mean by made up? So she brought a civil suit against him for allegedly assaulting her in the changing room of Bergdorf Goodman's, which is a very upscale department store, and also R-wording her. We'll call it gooping. We'll just call it that. Assault and gooping. He was found not guilty of the gooping, but liable on the assault. Then he basically said that she continued going around saying that she was gooped. He called her a liar, and she sued him for defamation. Now, technically, he hadn't gooped her. He had simply assaulted, allegedly, or at least in the findings of the jury. I don't think anyone really believed. I don't think anyone sane actually believed her, because she seems like a bit of a lunatic and who has different weird rape fantasies. Yes, I actually accidentally said it. And she has all these fantasies about goop, and she just seems like a creepy, weird person. And her memory of the event was so, couldn't remember what year, what month. She knew nothing about it. The statute of limitations had long since passed. Kathy Hochul, specifically in an effort to enable Jean Carroll to go after Trump, changed the law in New York saying for the next year, statute of limitations is abolished on that particular statute. Like specifically to target him. If you want to talk about weaponization of the judicial system, it's astonishing just the lengths they went to try and smack that label on Trump that he's a goopist. And the left is reveling in that. And I'm going to explain to you soon why you should revel in it too. You should. Here is after she first. So then when he basically went on his circuit tour saying she's a crazy liar because she keeps calling me a goopist, and a jury said I didn't goop her, and a judge said, well, you were found liable of assault, and most people colloquially refer to it the same way. So when you said that you didn't goop her, that's defamation. Craziness. Crazy decision. Crazy. And then basically went out of his way to get a judgment entered against him for ultimately $83 million. Here is this Looney Tunes on with Rachel Maddow shortly after she got that verdict.
To help shore up women's rights. Do you know what that might be, what that might look like?
Yes, Rachel. Yes.
Tell me.
I had such great ideas for all the good I'm going to do with this money. First thing, Rachel, you and I are going to go shopping. We're going to get completely new wardrobes, new shoes, motorcycle for Crowley, new fishing rod for Robbie. Rachel, what do you want? Penthouse? It's yours,
Nothing.
Rachel. Penthouse and France? You want France? You want to go fishing in France? No? Oh, all right. Okay.
That's a joke.
Yeah. So that's that lunatic. That was not on September
To help
8th.
shore up.
That's that lunatic. And this is that same lunatic basically showing what a hussy she was when she was young. Here's an ancient clip of her that you may not have seen, which just shows just what a hoe she was.
Well, I'm calling because I'm a 49-year-old single woman who's never been married. I consider myself well educated, but at the same time, I
That's her. That's E. Jean Carroll.
find it difficult to meet gentlemen who are of the caliber I want to date.
Oh, Jody, nothing in the whole world is easier. The thing is, you gotta just leave your house, Jody, and just get out there. The best place to meet men is on the street. You just see somebody cool coming toward you, stop him. Drop your purse, drop your change, hand him a beer, hand him a $5 bill. If you see somebody who say, my name is such and such, that's how you do it. The street is the #1 place to meet a guy.
Well, I'm
She's the one who was supposedly gooped in a Bergdorf Goodman's. Yeah. Yeah. And here is this lunatic recently talking about how she managed to trick the jury into giving her this verdict. That's her. And here's her on a podcast.
But then you're like, well, I got to be hotter to win this
Yeah,
case.
yeah, I got to be fuckable is the word. So what we did is we looked, I had a talk show, a TV talk show in 1996. I went through that, some of the shows, took screenshots of my hair cut in a bob, and we did, then I found the hairdresser and the makeup person who made me look like that in 1996. She came every day to trial, did my hair and makeup exactly like it was in 1996. I wore the exact same clothes I wore in 1996, the exact clothes.
Yeah, they're back. It's back in trend.
Yeah. Oh, I don't have a book here, but the thing I'm wearing on the cover, I bought it at Bergdorf's in 1993. So
Wow.
that's the kind of, and I didn't look like I looked in 96, but I looked like somebody who could have looked like somebody in 96, and it was enough. It was enough. So it was a trick.
District, that doesn't make you annoyed? That doesn't, your feminist juices don't start flowing over that? Like,
such a cuck, this dude. I have no idea who this dude is. His little pearl necklace there. I'm sure that's not the only pearl necklace he's ever had, that guy. Wow. Your feminist juices? Doesn't that annoy your feminist juices? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Doesn't that annoy? Because they have to deny reality. They have to deny reality. So there she is, all proud of how she managed to trick the jury. A lot of people make a big stink about that, saying that she's lying to the jury. Frankly, I think she used the word trick. I would say, if you want to be reasonable, that's what lawyers do. I mean, that's certainly what lawyers want to do. They want to paint a picture which is going to be realistic. So I don't really have that much of a problem with her doing that, just because I understand that's what litigators are going to do. But what? What did I? Why are people saying Joe? What did I do? What? I don't know what that means. All right. Well, anyhow. So she ended up getting that $83 million judgment, with which interest today they say is like $89 million. And the Second Circuit today upheld that decision. We're not going to go through the whole decision just because I couldn't find it. I'm sure I could find it if I really looked for it. I probably could just log in to like my e-file account and find it in 10 minutes. I'm really not in the mood to read it. Apparently it's like a 70-page decision, and I'm really not in the mood to read the ridiculous justification. But here's the short rundown of it. A federal appeals court on Monday upheld a civil jury's finding that President Donald Trump must pay $83.3 million to Eugene Carroll for his repeated social media attacks and public statements against the longtime advice columnist after she accused him of SA. Three-panel judge of the Second Circuit Court of Appeals rejected Trump's appeal of defamation award, finding the jury's damages awards are fair and reasonable. Totally fair, totally reasonable. $65 million. Totally fair, totally reasonable. That's how much she was damaged. 65 impunitive. 65 impunitive. The record in this case supports the district court's determination of the degree of reprehensibility of Mr. Trump's conduct. How dare he tell the truth when he says, I didn't goop that woman? And a jury even said I didn't goop her. Was remarkably high, perhaps unprecedented. Unprecedented. Unbelievable. I always thought truth was a defense to defamation. The three-judge appeals panel said Carroll was subjected to ongoing and prolific harassment as a result of these statements, including a multitude of death threats and other threats of physical injury. Trump had argued the damages were unreasonably excessive, particularly a $65 million punitive damage award, and pushed for a new trial in light of the Supreme Court's expansion of presidential immunity. But the appeals court roundly rejected those arguments, writing that Trump's extraordinary and unprecedented broadsides against Carroll 81 justify the steep award. That wouldn't really address whether or not immunity would protect him. It's hard. Frankly, look, I've been studying a lot about Trump v. USA and presidential immunity. I struggle with a basis to claim that presidential immunity would help protect him from this award or these damages. This certainly seems to be in the bucket of categories of things that there is no immunity. So I don't think that would work. I don't think that argument is going to hold up. I do think that it's punitive. I think it's ridiculous. Given the unique and egregious facts of this case, we conclude that the punitive damage award did not exceed the bounds of reasonableness. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. But here's why you should be happy when you see this. There's her lawyer, Roberta Kaplan. Earlier today, United States Court of Appeals to the Second Circuit affirmed in a comprehensive 70-page ruling that Eugene Carroll was telling the truth and that Donald Trump was not. No, they basically said, we don't care if he was telling the truth. We want to hit him with a judgment, frankly. But because he never gooped her. That's what a jury found. That's much more accurate than a statement that he did. But anyhow, here's why you should be thrilled with this whole decision. First and foremost, he's not going to end up paying it. He won't. He'll end up raising money. He'll raise money. Everyone loves him. And second of all, if the judgment was for $1 billion in punitive damages, it was totally worth it. It was totally worth it. This case, the lengths they went to go after President Trump financially, and this is one of six cases, which basically made him our president. That's what it was. This was one of 6 cases that made him our president. 6 cases, 4 criminal, 2 civil. There was this civil one. There was the other New York civil one that Letitia James brought, and that judgment has already been knocked out by the first department. So yeah, the Second Circuit can come along now and say whatever the hell they want about this decision and pretend that this is reasonable. I don't think that the Supreme Court, frankly, is going to bail him out. I'd be surprised. I'm sure he'll try to appeal to the Supreme Court. I'd be very surprised if the Supreme Court bails him out. They could. They could say this is not reasonable. I think that they're going to be reluctant to do that, feeling like they're afraid of looking like they're being homers for Trump. So I think they're going to be very reluctant to vacate this award. But this is one of 6 cases which handed him the presidency. This is one of 6 cases which resurrected his whole his ascension towards being crowned as our champion from the Republican Party. People forget in 2021, 2022, when he was still going on and on about the election, when he was going on and on about how 2020 he was stolen from him, he was not popular. Even amongst MAGA, there were a lot of people who were like frustrated. And we were still dealing with all the new mandates and frustrated with everything that happened, not happy with his praise of Fauci, a lot of criticism for the way he handled the last year of his administration, even from his own base. He was not popular in 2021. This case is, I think, the first one that came against him. This case was when they changed the law to come after him. This is the case which started his march back to the White House. E. Jean Carroll might have her $80 million. I'll tell you right now, she got a judgment for $1 billion against him. It was totally worth it. Totally worth it. This case, Letitia James, and then the ensuing 4 cases, all those 4 criminal cases certainly came after this case. This case was first, at least the initial. Those cases all started in 2023. This was going back to 2022, 2021. So their dedication towards trying to persecute and bankrupt President Trump, that they actually changed the laws of the state of New York solely for the purposes of trying to bankrupt President Trump, is why today he is our current sitting president. All of this, all these different assailing acts, they made him our president as much as you or I did. They made him our president, if not far more so. Far more than anything my voice could have done on the internet as far as helping his presidential chances. Far more than folks who are have a significantly larger audience than I have could have done individually. These 6 cases did. They brought him back from the brink. He was someone who was forgotten. He was someone who people questioned whether he could win. He was someone whose complaints about 2020 in the wake of how he handled 2020 from soup to nuts made him someone who was not popular, even amongst the right. All the effects of the stuff about the J6 and what happened on J6, he wasn't popular. His popularity came because he had always said that he was being persecuted, and the left said, oh, we will persecute you, and we're going to let the whole world see that we're persecuting you. And E. Jean Carroll was the first or second arrow that was being shot at him after he had left the White House. And it just became too much. So I say, God bless E. Jean Carroll. I don't care about her stupid $80 million judgment. She can sit there all giddy all she wants. I'm far more giddy because we have someone who's rounding up illegals in Los Angeles. I'm far more giddy because we have a border that's actually closed. I'm far more giddy because we have tariffs. We're actually swinging our economy around like it's a gazanga scepter, and basically leveling other countries to do our bidding. So yeah, I'm very, overall, this was a massive win. And trust me, every person on the left would be thrilled if she had not, if they saw that they all wish that those actions had never been brought, not the civil actions, not the criminal actions, because they made this bet. And we should be grateful for it. So that's my thoughts on that. One of the things that President Trump has brought up let me make sure I didn't miss anything here. Should be how they used to do it in the medical field. When a doctor would give a verbal order, the nurse would write it down in the chart, and then later the doctor would initial it. That's fine. That's fine. I'm fine with that. That's. I just don't want to hamstring him from being able to take presidential acts unless he happens to be in D.C. That's all. Good to see you. You too, John. At some point, can you cover the legal authority for Trump to negotiate for shares of Intel plus specifics of who owns it or can decide to sell? Intel Plus. Haven't heard anyone in LawTube cover this. I don't know very much about this. I'll try to look into it, John. But I certainly am not prepared to weigh in with anything that's going to sound relatively intelligent now. So I'll try to make a note of it. She's got to fill this game. Didn't New York come close to violating the prohibition on bills of attainder in the E. Jean Carroll case? The way they avoided it is they said anyone can. That's a great question. In case you're not familiar with the term bill of attainder, it's a reference to you can't write a law that's designed to target an individual. The way they circumvented it is they said that the statute of limitations for this particular statute is hereby suspended for 1 year, and that anyone who brings a claim for that in the next 12 months, that they're basically that the statute of limitations will not be a valid defense. And that was after, I think Kathy Griffin had heard about the story of E. Jean Carroll, her ridiculous, bogus, stupid story. And she went to Kathy Hochul and asked her, how can we go after him? And that's what Kathy Hochul came up with. So the way they make it not a bill of attainder is that, well, it technically applies to anyone who committed assault 20 years ago, 40 years ago. It was a retarded law designed specific. But it was inspired by E. Jean Carroll and insanity. But it's not bill of attainder because it technically would have applied to any woman who claimed assault or any person who claimed assault that went back well beyond the statute of limitations. How about a signature Good Lawgic grant for my 17th month anniversary? I'll give you the horn.
How dare you?
Whoops. Was that good enough rent? Is that good enough rent? I can't just it's not like here comes a rant. I can't do that. I wish I could, but no. I see a topic and I start thinking about it and I start feeling it and then it just comes. So I wish I could, but can't do that one. Can't do it. I tried. It won't come out real. I don't try faking things. Just ask Lady Logic. So, spicy mood tonight. Where was I? Ah, yes. Remember how we're like the left is always about like Ukraine and Ukrainians and like, oh my God, we have to do everything to protect the Ukrainians. And they also happen to love like everyone who's a refugee and asylum to this country. Yeah, unfortunately, they didn't give the slightest damn about this refugee, a Ukrainian refugee. Deadly stabbing of a Ukrainian refugee on Charlotte Light Rail raises questions about public safety. A deadly stabbing of a Ukrainian refugee in North Carolina last month has sparked outrage among elected officials, including President Trump, after local authorities released video of the attack in the Charlotte area transit system. Police say 23-year-old Iryna Zarutska, who fled the war in Ukraine only to be killed in an apparent random attack on August 22nd, was allegedly stabbed by a man with a long record of criminal charges and psychiatric crises. Yeah, this is something no one's talking about this until Trump brings it up. No one's talking about this. Why not? Well, because it happens to be an attractive white woman who's killed by a black man. The suspect, 34-year-old Carlos Brown Jr., served time in prison, been briefly committed for schizophrenia, and was arrested earlier this year after repeatedly calling 911 from a hospital. Officials in Charlotte faced sharp criticism for failing to keep Brown, who has a history of mental illness, arrests, and erratic behavior, off the streets before Zarutska was fatally stabbed on the commuter train, a killing that critics claim could have been prevented. Not could have been, should have been. Should have been. Brown was arrested at the scene and charged with first-degree murder. Court records show he had cycled through the criminal justice system for more than a decade with 14 prior cases in Mecklenburg County, including a 5-year prison sentence for robbery with a dangerous weapon. The August 22nd attack, captured in recent released surveillance videos, has drawn condemnation of local officials and emerged as a talking point in the discussion about public safety, especially among conservatives who supported Trump administration's crackdown on crime in places such as D.C., where he deployed the National Guard. I want to bring up for you the video. We're going to watch it.
Details in a deadly stabbing on a cat's rail line. Thanks for joining us for your news at 6. I'm Siobhan Bryan. It was 2 weeks ago today that this woman, Iryna Zarutska, a Ukrainian refugee, was killed while riding the light rail in South Charlotte. Since that
Can you guys hear? Is the volume okay?
time, there have been several questions about what happened, why it happened, and could it have been prevented. Today, CATS released surveillance video of the events leading up to and after her murder. And we want to warn you, some of these images could be considered disturbing to our viewers. We're not sharing images of the attack, but rather what led up to it. WBTV anchor Jamie Bowl joins me live in studio with more on that video. Jamie?
Yeah, Siobhan, first, before we show you anything, we think it's important for everyone at home to understand the process we go through in cases like this. Awful things happen. Sometimes our photojournalists are there for the incidents. Other times we get video from police body cameras, or in this case, Charlotte area transit. We request video from agencies all the time. We do it to confirm what we have been told is backed up by the available video. It's about transparency. It's about confirmation. Now, when we get video like we did today, it doesn't just mean we put it on the air. In fact, often we don't show it, or it's heavily edited, especially when it's violent and graphic. We ask questions of ourselves. Does this video...
Hey, happy birthday. He's dead, Jim. Everyone wish He's Dead Jim a happy birthday. Come on, let's go. Come on. Come on. It's like he's got like a classic picture from Mud the First. I assume it's Mud the First, not Wolf in the Fold. Could be Wolf in the Fold. I think it's Mud the First. Based on Kirk's. Yeah, come on. He's dead, Jim. Happy birthday, brother. If I had a shot glass, I would take a shot for you.
Show us something important. Does it give us new or better insight into what happened? Is there news value in showing it? And then we factor in decency and privacy. Tonight, we've decided to air a portion of the video provided by CATS. We're doing that because it verifies what we've been told about this incident, and that is newsworthy given the public attention and the demands for safety improvements.
And this is why the reason I'm sharing this with you, this particular version of the video, is because it's YouTube friendly, in that they're not going to show the moment of the stabbing. They basically show everything right up to it.
We will not be showing the actual stabbing itself.
It's 9:46 p.m. You'll notice right away, this looks like any other ride aboard the light rail. People are doing what they do these days, keeping to themselves, scrolling on their phones as they ride along. The man accused in the killing, Carlos Brown, is in the red hoodies on the right side of your screen. He appears to be maybe a little emotional, perhaps a little agitated, but nothing disruptive. There's nothing that gets anyone's attention. About 30 seconds later, Iryna Zarutska boards. She's wearing a hat and a t-shirt from a pizzeria, and she sits in the row in front of Brown. She has earbuds in and is looking at her phone. She too is just minding her own business. They ride along for around 4 minutes with nothing unusual happening. Then around 9:50 p.m., Brown reaches into a pocket. We've zoomed in on it here. He pulls out a pocket knife. No one notices a thing. Seconds later, he would stand up, and from behind, unprovoked, as we stop the video, he would stab the young woman several times. She had no chance to defend herself. The attack was over in seconds, and when it was over, Brown walked through the train attempting to get off. A few passengers...
You could see there the blood dripping from the knife. Sicko.
If any, at first realized what had happened until they noticed drops of blood on the floor. 90 seconds after the attack, a bystander rushes down to begin lending aid to Zarutska. She would die from her injuries. 30 seconds later, 9:52 p.m., 6 minutes into the video, Brown leaves the light rail.
The video here shows us just how quickly things happened and how difficult it would have been to prevent once he got on the train.
Which that's the question. Why is this guy roaming around on trains? How many more DeCarlos Browns are there out there?
And that is an important part to all of this. From what we've been told, Brown never should have been on the train. Authorities tell WBTV he did not buy a ticket. Kat says it is...
That's not the point. That's not the point. Who cares if he bought a ticket? Who cares about that? That's the most ridiculous thing in the world. Oh, he didn't buy a ticket. Oh, so if he bought a ticket, totally fine if he just butchered a woman for no reason whatsoever. And totally fine that he'd been released by judges who basically said, oh, we don't care. We're going to just let this sick individual roam free. That's totally fine. Totally fine. Look, what do you want? He paid for his ticket. What is wrong with these people?
Working on ways to keep fare skippers off mass transit.
Oh my God, that's the big concern? Fare skippers? That's your take? That's your takeaway? I didn't see this part. I wasn't listening to the audio of this part. That's this guy's take. Oh my God. Watch out for the fare skippers. No. Just watch out for ridiculous lunatic lefty judges who let lunatics, like deranged psychopathic schizophrenic lunatics, go around stabbing people. Beware a leftist media which decides to keep this in the dark, that you and I never heard about this ridiculous case because, oh my God, people might think bad things about black people. He didn't do it because he's black. He did it because he's psychotic. He wasn't free because he was free, perhaps because he's black, and probably almost certainly didn't hurt his chances of walking free, despite being an obvious lunatic, despite being a 14-time arrested, previously incarcerated for 5-year violent felon, when roaming around free. Yeah, he should have been gooped on the day of this thing. He should have been in prison, gooped on the. There are these sick, deranged. Okay, let me explain something to you. Okay, I want to explain something to you. I'm gonna get like a little religious for a second here. All right. This is like a Torah concept. I don't know if there's such a thing in religions that are not Judaism. I'm not sure about this one, but I'm gonna tell you something. What we express about God, one of the things we recognize about God is that he has two character traits, that he is good and that he is straight. And the point is that we lump those two together. Tov v'yasher. Tov being good, yasher meaning straight. Because if you are just good, without having an affectation towards making sure you're straight, that is not good. That is not good. It is the opposite of good. If you have random acts of goodness without properly meting out that goodness, it is the exact opposite of goodness. It is evil. if you don't account for justice, if you don't account for actually meting out justice in a proper way, it is the opposite of goodness. It is impossible to have genuine goodness. By doing nice things for people who truly do not merit it. And that is what this whole crazy, so open-minded leftists that their brains have fallen out perspectives that we're just got to be good to these people and good to these people and good to these people. So we're going to enable people who just want to cut off their own genitalia. We're going to be really kind-hearted to people who are insanely violent and just feel bad for, what about the impact it has on their kids? Or, he's just struggling, and forget about the fact of what they're going to do tomorrow and unleash them on society so that they can basically pose a hazard and a threat to anyone else who did nothing wrong at all, short of just making the terrible mistake of sitting in front of this jackass, of this evil, twisted jackass. That's her big crime. That's what this woman was able to survive Ukraine, and she can't survive living in an American city. She survived Ukraine, but can't survive here because we have crazy, ridiculous liberal judges who say, we don't want to throw people in prison. Let's release them without bond. Your crazy, ridiculous, evil policies. Evil that's disguised as being merciful and kind. Evil that's under the guise of, we're more enlightened. We have more of a heart. You don't have more of a heart. You're actually heartless. You are sick, twisted people. And it bothers me. What bothers me is a tweet that someone pointed out that was a phenomenal point, that if you're a bartender and you serve a drunk person, who's a shot of alcohol, and then they go out and murder someone with their car, that you could be held liable. But if you're a judge who sees a 14-time offender who's a lunatic, a psychotic, deranged individual, and you let them walk free, there's no accountability at all. No accountability at all. These sick, twisted judges who say, okay, well, come back and we'll adjudicate this in the future. No accountability. These are the people whose role, responsibility, their duty, the reason that they're there is to ensure that they're meting out justice, keeping our streets safe. That's why we pass laws. That's why you're judges who are supposed to be fairly applying those laws. And when you don't have justice, when you have injustice, that you pervert justice in such a way as to create injustice, to create an unsafe condition for genuinely law-abiding citizens, under the guise of that you're merciful, you're kind, you have consideration, you are an evil, twisted piece of crap. This woman's blood is on the hands of the North Carolina judicial system. Feel so bad about Ukraine, so bad about every refugee who comes here, but a white woman ends up being butchered by a black man who's clearly deranged, and you won't even talk about it. Forget to F this Ukrainian, to hell with her, to hell with this refugee, to hell with this person who's here, I don't even know, legally or illegally, but certainly didn't deserve to be butchered. To hell with her, she's white. So we're not even going to tell you about it. So we're going to free these sick people out there into society. We're going to let them just roam around and do whatever the hell they want. And we're not even going to report on it because, oh my God, people might think bad things about the black community. Oh my God, people might recognize just how twisted and screwed up our judicial system is. So no, we're not even going to talk about it until President Trump has to come out there and say, what the hell is happening? What the hell is happening? These Democrat-run cities, and I understand that it's a southern state. It's not not exactly a liberal hot zone. But every major city seems to be a place of chaos that's being run by Democrats. Where they basically say we don't give a damn about justice. We don't give a damn about keeping our citizens safe because oh my God, we can't throw people in prison. Sickening. This blood, her blood, is on their hands. I hope her blood cries out to God for justice on these judges who let that guy walk free. this clown over here worrying about fair jumpers. Like, that's the big problem. That's your big takeaway. Fair jumpers. Idiots. Here's the judge who let her go. Judge Teresa Stokes. A viral ex-post has revealed that Magistrate Judge Teresa Stokes, who released DeCarlos Brown Jr. before he fatally stabbed Ukrainian refugee Iryna Zarutska, also holds a leadership role at Charlotte Treatment Facility. This revelation has sparked public outrage as Judge Teresa Stokes have a personal motive for releasing DeCarlos Brown Jr. before in January 2025. The world is in shock after the tragic death of Iryna Zarutska, a 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee who was fatally stabbed in what authorities have called a random attack on board Charlotte Lynx Blue Line. Teresa Stokes is a magistrate judge who released career criminal DeCarlos Brown. These are all the times this guy was arrested. You think she didn't know about the 14 times he was arrested? Idiots. Sickening. Try defending yourself from these people. They try charging you with murder for that. Sickening. President Trump Monday offered his condolences to the family of murdered Ukrainian refugee Iryna Zarutska and vowed to confront the evil people in society after he was shown a shocking video of her being hacked to death on a train in Charlotte, North Carolina. They're evil people and we have to confront that. I just give my love and hope to the family of a young woman who was stabbed this morning or last night in Charlotte by a madman, Trump told reporters. A lunatic just got up and started. It's right on the tape, not really watchable because it's so horrible. Just viciously stabbed. She's just sitting there. So they're evil people. We have to be able to handle that. If we don't handle that, we don't have a country. Trump said following Friday's release of security footage showing the sickening killing allegedly carried out by a career criminal DeCarlos Brown. This is poor woman. We don't care about her because she's a blonde white woman. So the media doesn't care about a blonde white woman. Her crime is that she's a blonde white woman. That's why no one can know about Iryna. The president also referenced the recent mass shooting at a Catholic school in Minneapolis, which left 2 children dead and over a dozen wounded, and pledged to end senseless violence. Quote, we're going to get to the end of it. And you know, when you have horrible killings, you have to take horrible actions, Trump said, before blaming cashless bail for violent criminals reoffending. He's correct. And the actions that we're taking are nothing. Cashless bail started a wave in our country where a killer kills somebody and is out on the street by the afternoon. In many cases, going out and going against cashless bail, he said. Zarutska moved to the U.S. to live with an aunt in Charlotte in 2022 after Russia invaded her country and was returning from her job at a local pizzeria, Zepetti's, when she was killed. A top advisor for Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. Yeah, okay, whatever. I don't care about Zelensky. This is one more demonstration of the many things said by President Trump that he's fighting against criminals. Important, said Andriy Yermak. I don't really care about Ukrainians. To me, it doesn't. The only reason that her Ukrainian citizenship is relevant, the only reason it's relevant is because it only underscores the utter hypocrisy that they're so worried about Ukraine. But if you have a white Ukrainian who's killed by a black man, butchered by a black man who never should have been roaming the streets, they won't talk about it. So concerned about Ukraine, unless they get butchered here by a black man. I can guarantee you, if it was a white man who butchered her, you would have heard about this story. Americans butcher Ukraine refugee. That would have been the headlines everywhere. She was that would have been, you would have seen the Harry Sissons of the world all talking about how she was safer in Ukraine than she was around a white man. Mainstream media, leading Democrats were accused on Sunday of downplaying or ignoring the crime and other similar acts of violence in America's major cities and public transport. We should paint them as soft on crime. They are. Precisely the same thing, Matt. Like those who feel a wide open border is kind. It's compassionate. I'm sorry. You managed to get that one through. Managed to get one of them through. I've been bad on locals. Rizalian says, Joe, it goes beyond just the judges and people don't know it. This is a judge that in Seattle start about 37 minutes in and you'll see how far beyond them it goes. It's an hour and 30 minutes. You want me to go 37 minutes in? It says start 37 minutes in. I'm going to give this like a minute. I don't know how long. I haven't seen this yet. We'll just get to this first. JH says, so Joe, you tell me the girl with 2 young kids who doesn't speak English in the Lowe's selling strawberries isn't a U.S. citizen? She's dropped in a U.S. van at 6 a.m. and pick up at 7 p.m. Seems like an American work ethic to me. She most likely has an H-1B or H-1C work visa. Prove me wrong. Plus, the strawberries go bad in 3 days. Don't buy kosher strawberries are available online. Be safe. You're funny. You're funny. Sending you a post claiming the judge never passed the bar. Note, this murder happened at 8:22, kept quiet because CLT Democratic mayoral primary is today. Yeah, that makes sense. I can't help you. I have no say there. Let's check out this thing. So sick. So twisted. These people are sickening. They're children. That's what they are. They're children. It's not. They think they're enlightened. They think that they're the good people. That's the sickening thing. They think they're the good people, and they're a threat to society. They are the threat, as much as the criminals themselves. Sickening. Now I'm getting upset. Let me talk to you about the Phillies Karen. Once I'm covering everything wrong with the world today, which I feel like is what this show has become. Everything wrong with the world today. Phillies Karen. I wasn't going to do this, so give me a minute to find. case you're unfamiliar with who she is. This is the moment that was caught on camera. This is at a Phillies game, obviously. I think so. I assume it's a Phillies game. She's wearing Phillies jersey. As long as a lot of other people wearing Phillies jerseys there. It says Sports Philadelphia, so we'll assume it's in the Phillies game. So, Phillies Karen is that woman here. This woman is Phillies Karen. You can see at the beginning of this that she dropped the ball when it went into the stands, and that guy picked it up. Gives it to his kid. And there he is meeting Harrison Bader, who's a Phillies star on the Phillies. And the whole country now hates. I'm not sure if they ever figure out. Of course, we know she's a liberal. The whole country is now hating on her. Here's another angle that I happened to stumble on while I was trying to find the video.
Yeah, you tell it! Woo! Oh, shit!
Oh, there she is talking to someone else.
She took it from the little kid, bro. Oh, shit! Get it, kid! Yeah!
Did they find out what her name was?
The classes are up! Karen is ready!
No. 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 No.
Put your glasses on!
So, yeah. No. Let me tell you something. This reaction is never the right reaction. What you're about to see here, this is never the right reaction. He's hugging his kid. He's so excited. He got his kid a ball. What is that? What is that? What is that? So no, that is not the right reaction. That is not the right reaction. Okay, she's obviously like a lunatic, clearly a Biden voter. There's no, I will never believe this woman voted for Trump. Not in a million years. She's someone who's self-entitled, self-important. I'm going to rip a baseball out of a kid. First and foremost, it's not her ball, okay? If she's too much of a klutz to catch it, which I understand, it can be difficult to catch in that moment there. Not everyone has, hands of leather. That's only some of us are blessed that we can just sort of, just drop down and catch anything. I only say that because the one time that I was in position to catch a ball, I caught a foul pop barehanded. But not everyone, if it was in a tough position, you don't always get it. And usually, not everyone's gonna. There are times I can miss. I'm not blaming, but the reality is, if you don't have a firm grip on the ball, it's not your ball. And it doesn't matter. It bounces off lots of people. It's not your ball. And she never had possession of this ball. Yeah, she never had it. She never had that ball. It was never her ball. She's a loser. It was never her ball. Her dad here did completely the right thing at this point. Everything he's doing to try and get the ball, totally fine. That's what everyone does. It's a free-for-all. It's a free ball for anyone who can get it first. Whoever can get possession of it first. Once he has possession of it right then and there, boom, his ball. That's it. Not her ball. It's his ball. She has no right to it. She has no right to complain. And frankly, he would have been in every right frame of mind to say, back the hell off, or I'm going to pop you in the mouth. That would have been the right thing to do. And if she's still like in a threatening type of way, the way she is during this entire exchange here, where she's like leaning into him like that, frankly, what he should have been saying here, instead of cowering like a little girl, of putting up his fist like, what's happening here? Instead of doing that, he should have stood up for his son and said, "Go to hell, lady. You're a crazy woman here. Go back to your Cruella de Vil stylist and leave us the hell alone, because it's not your ball and you're a lunatic if you think it belongs to you." That's what you should have said to her. That's what you should have said to her. And the fact that he didn't, that's the problem, because that's the message he's giving his kid here. And I'm sure I am positive this father loves his kid. I have no doubt he loves his kids. Okay, I think there's probably two of them there. I think there's two. I think the girl there is probably his daughter. See the girl right behind? Probably his daughter. I have no doubt he loves his kids. What I'm saying is everything he's doing in this moment of we're going to cave to this woman is totally the wrong message. Reach into the kid's glove and take it away from him. That's what you're going to do? Reach into his kid's... The hell's... what either of them is thinking in this moment is just beyond belief. Even if it was her ball, once it's given to this little kid, that you're going to take it from the kid. What a lunatic, crazy woman she is. Insane. But this dad, whose initial reaction is to like cower, like, oh my gosh, please don't hurt me. And then to even hear her out that it's her ball, to agree with her that it's her ball, to have such small little tiny minerals, tiny little minerals that you're like, how did this guy actually have kids? Tiny little minerals that you can't stand up to an angry Karen and say, get the F out of here. Get out of my face before I call security on you. I mean, you know you're not going to get her locked up because you're in liberal Philadelphia. But get the hell out of my face. It's not your ball. You're going to reach into your own kid. You give the kid the ball, and then you're going to reach in there and hand it to her? Where he has a ball that is his now. It's his now. Once he gives it to the kid, it's his. It's the kid's ball. And you're going to take a ball from your own kid and give it to some angry Karen? I think, oh, ta-ta, like that's really... No, that's not winning. That's not winning. Now, I'm glad that the internet is harassing her. I don't know what the hell her name is. I don't know how she managed to hide her name. There's all sorts of false reports about what her name is. Oh, it is not just a ball. It is not... No. There's a reason that they're fighting over this ball. It's a big deal to get a ball at a game. To get a home run ball, especially? No, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. It's a big moment for a kid. Especially. It's a big moment. It's a big moment for the dad there. You could look at how he reacted when he first gave her the ball. Look at this hug. Look at this hug. He's like, it's like a bonding thing there. Like, yeah, I got you the ball. You don't tell me it's just a ball. But the message he's giving is, if a crazy lunatic woman comes up to you and demands something that she's not entitled to have, cave. Give in to them. Just to make them go away. No, that's not what you do. You tell her to get back on her broom and find her seat. Get back on her broom and fly on back to your seat, lady. Because it's not your ball, and we're not giving it to you. Next time, learn not to apply butter to your fingers before you come to a ball game. Maybe eat less popcorn. I don't know. I don't know why you dropped it, but you never had possession of it. The dad had an interview? Oh gosh, I don't know if I want to see this. I'm sure they applaud him for giving into this woman. Everything's the wrong message here. Drew Feltwell. This is not going to go well. This ad is ending in 13 seconds. I assume this is the...
Now by Drew and Lincoln, and also Sister Avery Feltwell. Thank you all for being with us this morning. Drew, I want to start with you and kind of just take us back to what went down here. So it's the fourth inning. This home run heads your way. What's going through your mind when you get the ball, you get to share it with your son, kind of what happened in that moment, and then you have this woman come up from behind like that?
Yeah, very exciting to have the ball even head towards us, let alone, fall in a seat 10 feet to my right. It was very exciting walking that way as the ball was in the air, thinking that I might be able to get a ball for him on his birthday week.
Yeah, I mean, Lincoln, what was it like for you in that moment? What was your reaction to everything that happened there?
I was very, very happy because that was the first home run we ever caught. Well, it didn't really catch, went to it and got the ball.
Right. And so when everything unfolded after that, and then suddenly there was a bad thing, but then all these good things happened.
Yeah.
What was that like for you, Lincoln?
At first, I wasn't very happy that we had to give the ball to her, but it had to happen to get her to go away. But
no,
at the end of
no. What are you trying to raise this kid to be trans? Why would you give him this message? Why? Why would you give him this message? Are you trying to teach your daughter that she should be a Karen? Why would you give this message? How is this a healthy message? I know he loves his kids. That's what's so tragic about this is he doesn't know how to be a good dad. He wants to be a good dad. He loves his kids. He really wants to be a good dad. But society has basically taught him how to be a cuck dad.
it was really, really fun meeting Bader.
I'm sure it was.
Okay, let's talk about this. So then you're invited to meet Harrison Bader.
If this wasn't caught on TV, the moment still would have been real for them. If this wasn't caught on TV, if they cut back to the players circling the bases and no one saw the whole aftermath here, you don't get the goodie bags. And basically you just taught your kid to be a cuck to some crazy Karen, and you taught your daughter that, hey, if you want to get things in this world, you can just take them from someone by being a deranged lunatic. And you taught your son that's how you deal with some wacky woman. This is terrible. It's awful. I pity this man. I pity his kids. I pity our society, which basically has made this like something that happens.
I mean,
she only becomes a Karen because there are Drew Feltwells out there. If everyone basically told her, get back on your broom and go back where you came from and cackle away from here, she would have left. We can't be caving to these women. Sickening.
Thing just kind of turns around and then you have this magical experience. Can you tell us?
She's using the fact that she's a woman to try and bully you. That's what she's doing in that moment. You're not going to, what are you going to do? You're going to hit me? You're not going to because I'm a woman. You're too much of a gentleman. So I'm going to weaponize the fact that you're a gentleman to take advantage of you. And basically be as aggressive as I can, short of hitting you, because once I hit you, you might hit me back. So I'm going to be as aggressive as possible, get in your face, start screaming at you, even though I'm totally in the wrong, and you're going to cave into me. So you're allowing her to emotionally weaponize your civility. She's weaponizing your civility and punishing you for being civil, where she's being completely uncivil. And you're teaching your kids, yeah, that's how you deal with people who are lacking in any sort of civility.
What that was like when you got to meet him?
I'd never really been that excited before.
What did he say to you?
That he was sorry that it happened. That he was going to sign the bat for me.
So cool. Avery, what did you think when you're watching this whole thing go down with your family?
I was just thinking, why is she thinking it's her ball? Like, my dad had already gotten the ball. And I'm glad that it turned out to be a good thing and that the Phillies and Marlins took care of it.
Yeah.
They definitely did.
I mean, Drew, you mentioned you wanted this to be a teaching moment for your kids. I think it's become a teaching moment for families everywhere.
Yeah, a teaching moment on how not to be a dad. That's what it's been. It's been a teaching moment as far as like what a parent who loves his kid and doesn't know how to raise him because of what society has been teaching everyone.
What is the lesson you hope your family, but also everyone takes from this?
Wow, like I've done the other interviews and told them also, that could have gone two different ways, and this was a family outing, and it had to go the way it did. I really just wanted her to leave us alone, and it stinks I had to give her the ball back to get her to do that, but it ended well with Marlins and Phillies.
Well, his hand is shaking there. I'm gonna give this guy the benefit of the doubt that maybe he's got Parkinson's, and he was like, if it comes to blows, I don't know if that he's maybe
he's taking care of us. That was really nice of them.
Lincoln, are you an even bigger fan now?
So thank God that he was bailed out by the baseball team, which basically saved the day for him. How emasculating! Just everything, and the.
Yeah. Well, I was always a big fan.
I just got even higher now.
Yeah. Drew, Lincoln, Avery, thank you all so much. We're so happy you joined us.
Everything about this story, everything about the way the dad handled this is so humiliating. It's I don't look. I'm sorry. Society is screwed. It is. Crazy judges letting deranged people go free. We have people who should be standing up for their kids, who clearly love their kids, who have no idea how to stand up for them. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't tell you. Don't be like these people. That's what my message of the day is. Don't be like these people. Don't be like any of these people. Not the kid. The kid, I feel bad. I mean, the kid. I hope the kid grows up to be a stronger man than his dad. It's not being mean, and it's not being a jerk to stand up for that which belongs to you. That's part of being a man. It's part of being an adult. A woman should stand up for what belongs to her also. That's part of being an adult. Look, the person's holding a knife, holding a gun, that's a different situation. But they're just barking like a rabid dog, and you're just gonna give in to that? Just grow your pubes out. Very, very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. Everything about this was wrong. Wrong. I mean, what Major League Baseball did was nice. What the Phillies did was nice. That wasn't wrong. What they did was nice. In a certain way, it's even more emasculating. But at least make the day a happy event for the kid. So you want him to have a happy memory. But I just wish they would have said, next time you tell that bitch, get back in your room and go back where you came from. She's an administrator in the Hamilton, New Jersey school district. Such a great role model for kids. I definitely need to know her name. Definitely need to know her name. Definitely want to know her name. See, this is what a lot of people say to the woman who don't feel like can lose her job as administrator. No, that's not true. Post falsely identify the woman in the video as administrator in Hamilton School District. Apparently, there's been she's such a generic look that, like, generic Karen look that no one can figure out who she is. It's almost shocking, but I don't know. Maybe. Fun fact: I was the electrician for Robin Ventura's house. Really? Third baseman with the Chicago White Sox. I never had the balls to ask what it was like to be punched in the face by Nolan Ryan. Yeah, remember for 8 months. Let's give you the horn. Fun fact. So if you're unaware, Robin Ventura was a really good hitter for the White Sox, who got into a fist fight with Nolan Ryan. I guess it was in the mid to late 90s is when he was a ball player. And yeah, not a Hall of Famer, but one of those who was probably in discussion at certain points. But at least I'm fairly certain he never made the Hall of Fame. But yeah, he did get into a famous fight. He was famous getting into a fight with Nolan Ryan back in the days when ball players would punch each other. Real fights. Popcorn Planet covered this story, and one of the videos showed that she dropped the ball because she was holding her cell phone. She never had it. Of course she never had it. It's been a while since I saw him. Like, it's been a couple of years since I've seen Popcorn Planet guy. Gene Nelson. I post Jewish laser things because they used to make you laugh. You and I are together. That family comes first. Family, community, nation. That's priorities. This guy, I'm telling you, he should have told that woman to back the hell up. He should have backed the hell up. And if you think for a second I'm giving my kids ball, you're even more psychotic and deranged than everyone who's watching this thinks you are. A man who allows live, love, laugh on his wall will accept anything. That's fair. That's a good call. That's a good catch. That's a good catch. Well done. CEO of Camping World posted he's sending them to World Series and giving them a new RV. High Road was beneficial. Her looks is now a Halloween costume. Yeah, that was actually one of the things I planned on.
Thank you.
Let me just some of the memes on this are good. Before I get out of here, I should share with you some of the memes. Some of them are really good. Cruella de Phil. She went home with baseball, woke up with the entire country hating her. Funny how life works. I don't think that's her. That's funny. My precious. My precious. That's funny. That's pretty good. That's funny. Yeah, I don't think she's going to be announcing who she is anytime soon. It's mine too. Here's a close-up. For anyone who thinks that she might have been the owner of that ball, she never had it. She never had it. Loser. God, terrible human being. Of course, you can tell just on the, even on live feed, you can tell she never had it. What's this? I don't know what's happening there. So yeah. I don't know if we're ever going to know who she is. The Field of Dreams. That's pretty funny. So they're saying it's not Leslie Ann Kravitz. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to get the wrong person. That's what everyone's afraid of, getting the wrong person. All right. Are you planning to cover a big televised trial again anytime? Remember when we all used to watch live trials together? Good times. You know, I saw there's a trial that's going on now with that woman who supposedly murdered, like, the head of the family, the matriarch. You guys know what I'm talking about. But I only heard about it like 4 days into the trial. I was like, I don't know anything about this case, but people were talking about it. What's the name of that case? You guys know the case I'm talking about. Donna Adelson, that was her. Yeah, Donna Adelson. So I was thinking about covering that trial. But then she was convicted. So there was a murder. What's happening?
Is guilty of first degree. The jury find as follows as to count one of the indictment, first degree murder. The defendant is guilty of first degree murder. Mrs. Adelson, control yourself. Count two. We, the jury, find as follows as to count two of the indictment. Conspiracy to commit first degree murder. The defendant is guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Count three. We, the jury, find as follows as to count three of the indictment. Solicitation to commit first-degree murder.
Guilty.
The defendant is guilty of solicitation to commit first-degree murder.
Yeah, I don't.
Department of War.
I don't care what other people think. Renaming it is a good thing. I already waited on that. All right, my friends. I'm going to lay my plane here. I thank you all for joining me. God willing, I do expect to be back here tomorrow evening. Even if you get really, really hungry, please make sure. You remember, lab meat, it's not meant for you. It's not. It's for they, them. It's not for you. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care if it's sizzling and it smells good. No, it's not meant for you. And most importantly, do not eat the bugs. Don't do it. Don't eat the bugs. I thank you all for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe. Drop a comment. Good night, everyone. Godspeed.